Welcome to the Shift Training Podcast, where our aim is to positively impact the quality of human interaction. This podcast is an exploration into how we can do that. So our current thesis is based on the idea that as we improve our connection with ourselves, we can get better at connecting with others. So today we're going to be talking about some interesting things and maybe potentially some hot takes. I'm your host, Law.
Co-host Vaughn.
And today we're going to be talking about values, beliefs, the value of updating our values and beliefs, and a few hot takes. So let's get started.
All right, let's begin. What's the first question?
Values, things that we value and their role in our life. And we're going to start with the first question. First question is, how do values influence our beliefs or choice of beliefs? Any thoughts?
Oh, great question. Heavy question.
Lightweight,
baby. Okay, so I think our values is like a filter in how we see the world. It's kind of like wearing glasses and all you see is blue. So let's say, for example, if I am somebody who values health and fitness, and I believe in working out, it's good for your health, good for your heart, and eating healthy is good to nourish your body. But if I believe in the opposite, then you're going to believe that eating junk food every single day is going to be good.
Or at least acceptable, right?
Right, but you don't want to do it every day because you know what's going to happen. You're going to feel lethargic, sluggish, and it's not good for your brain.
Might not matter if the greater value is short-term comfort or pleasure.
Right.
So I think that's a good example of how maybe what you value, like you said, it presents like the filter for anything and everything else. So if I value, let's say I really value being able to laugh and smile and do all those things with other people, then I'm going to probably start filtering or looking for things that allow me to, I would say, partake in more of what it is that I value, right? If somebody, an easy example is like, if somebody really loves a good burger, they value that burger, and for whatever reason they really love the burger, if you ask them where they want to eat, they're probably going to choose the burger spot more often than not, just because it is what they value, and maybe they value it more than certain other foods.
Right.
And that's an easy one to see because it's a food choice, but that plays a role in like a lot of our other decision making, period. So if I value, let's say, being able to be by myself more than I value being able to interact and have positive interactions with others, then I'm more likely to change the way that I view everything, so that way I'm more likely to have opportunities to just be by myself, enjoy my own company, or avoid people, quote unquote, right?
Right.
So,
you know what's interesting about this, like what I can add is, if I wasn't exposed to somebody who inspired me to be healthy or in fitness, then I wouldn't be able to know that, you know? So I think it's very important to surround yourself with other people that values the same thing that you value.
or different things,
Right.
because sometimes we need to update our values, right?
That's right.
Yeah, so I think that's a good segue into our next question, which is like, where do values come from? And usually our earliest values are taught to us or obtained via like family, teachers, friends, some mentors if you're lucky enough to run across some. But usually our initial set of values are imprinted on us, usually come from somewhere else. And at some point in time, maybe later in life, you might decide that you don't value those things in particular, and you might start exploring and finding some new things to value. Right. So it's usually where they come from initially.
Yeah, I think that although our values come from when we were young, when we were little kids, we're kind of like a blank slate, right? Or like a wet cement, and whoever's around us can influence us depending on that. I think three sources that come from is probably your caregiver, your family. If your family values kindness, generosity, service, then that's what you're going to value. And also your friends. I think a good factor of that is, there's a saying where it says you are the average of the 5 people you hang out with most. So if you hang out with people that are drinking, using, party, escapism, then you're gonna be around those people. You'll be that average. And I think another factor, since social media, the AI has been a big factor of how our brain is being influenced. I think it's very important to like curate our algorithm. If you are in that space of just pure violence, bad things, and that's where we have to shift it to, curate to something that's more aligned to, maybe kindness, generosity, and honesty, things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, social media is a major influence these days, and it's definitely a different time for, I grew up with that being developed, but didn't grow up fully immersed in it. Whereas to like now, I know like my nephew's like pretty in it, but he's in a different space. Like, but I know a lot of kids that are really just fully indoctrinated with whatever's going on. They're fully submerged in that, and that can influence that. I think another thing about this is like, we want to be very selective about it. So for example, and we'll end up talking about this later, but I think that something you'll start to realize is as you're growing up, you might have the realization that you don't really respect certain things, or you do respect certain things, and that might lead you to change your values. So for example, when you said someone else influenced you to really understand the value of health, physical health, right? And physical fitness, you probably saw something in them where you're like, wow, I really respect it. And they said, this is where it comes from. And you're like, yeah, I'll go after it now. So now it became valuable because you saw something that you're like, yeah, that's the thing. Yeah. I want some of that. So now I got to move towards it, right? So I think that's something to also be mindful of.
Yeah.
Is there anything else we want to touch base on for values before we go into beliefs?
I think that's pretty much it. I think also pain could also be a teacher for
100.
Your values, like when you experience pain, that's when you're like, oh, okay. Yeah,
I don't want any more of that one.
Yeah, exactly.
No, thank you. Okay, cool. Yeah. So our values, we're going to transition into beliefs, but our values play a huge role in the belief systems that we align with or adhere to. The brain is a meaning-making machine, and we're always looking for reasons or ways to justify what it is that we're doing to get towards what we value, right?
Right.
So we'll always make a way or reason or find some system that says this is okay. And at the same time, beliefs and values differ because let's say I value health and fitness, but I do not believe that I am that kind of person. It's not associated with my identity. So like, I don't really know how to move towards that thing that I think would be nice. I think there's a little nuance there. It could be like, I don't really value it enough to be willing to make that pivot or change. Or it could be, I don't know where to start. There's so much nuance there, but there's sometimes where we can value something, but not believe we're worthy enough to receive it.
Yeah, right. And yeah, I think the way I understand values and beliefs is like the values is what's important to you, right? And the beliefs is like what's true to you.
Yeah. That's a good way.
Yeah. So why do you think why we need beliefs?
Yeah, we need beliefs because without them we're kind of aimless. If we do not believe in moving towards a thing or sustaining a thing, or maybe even believe that we should not accept a thing, it kind of leaves us aimless. We will lack the ability to set boundaries or even know how to approach certain situations. I really think that beliefs are usually our compass. Sometimes having an aim, having a particular target, something we value, and then maybe the beliefs are like the code of conduct or means in how we move towards the thing that we value. Maybe something like that.
Yeah, I think the belief is kind of like a rule in our own brain, or how we play the game, right? And I think without that beliefs, it's so easy to just get lost and get confused on whatever decisions that people around us would tell us.
Absolutely. And I think when we talk about like where do beliefs come from, again, that can be taught to us when we're really young. But I think that, again, the brain being the meaning-making machine that it is, and looking for means of justifying or crafting a story or plot around how do we get there. I think that part of our belief systems, again, yes, taught, but also some of them are learned through our experiences, learned over time. And I'll give some good examples when we get to our hot takes for sure.
Yeah, I think our beliefs come from the story that has been told to us over and over again.
Yeah, on repeat.
Yeah, so it's copied or borrowed beliefs, and then you choose it as you get older. You know which one you want to believe in, and I think that's why I think we're gonna touch base on this later. Why do we need to update our beliefs, right? So, yeah, I think that beliefs come from our environment, the culture, social media, friends, and family.
Yeah, the question becomes, how can we leverage our beliefs to help us towards our goals or the things that we value, right? I think just mentioning that is really important, because if you start to understand that if what you're believing is not helping you move towards what you value or what you think you want, then it's not really of much service to you.
Right.
And then what comes the question of like, do we want to keep believing in something that's not really serving or working with us in our life? You know, is that something we want to adhere to? And if we're adhering to it, then what is it that we're adhering to? What are we actually signing up for?
Exactly. I think three things that is in my mind on how to leverage this is, number one is reflecting. I think your ability to reflect and see what's happening. And number two, I think it's important to have feedback from others, have a mentor. That's why having a coach, it's really important, because it accelerates your learning. And third, what would be the third one?
A third way to leverage that, let's see, so reflect, have a coach.
Questioning it, I think.
Questioning your beliefs is probably it's a really good thing. Questioning your beliefs, and like, you know, if you were to question it, but like then there's this part of me that's like really detail oriented, and I'm like, well, you know, if you drew out like a little flow chart, short flow chart, this belief is why I do X, or how does it show up in my behavior, and what comes from these repeated behavior patterns, and does this actually lead to, like, if you draw out a picture, start here, go here, go here, does it seem like it maps you or moves you towards what your values are, what you're actually aiming for currently in your life? And sometimes you might find that that's not true. Sometimes you might find that there are invisible scripts running that don't particularly serve you. And again, questioning it is how you're going to go, okay, okay, this is not really working. So maybe where do I go from here? What can I change about this?
Right, absolutely. So reflecting, questioning, and feedback.
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome. So let's talk about the value of updating our values and beliefs. Why do we need to make those changes through life? I think that one's pretty straightforward. I think as you go through life, you'll value things differently. Like, you'll be in different seasons of life. Like, some seasons you might really need to focus on your health. You might really, really need that. It becomes a very, very high priority. Your values reprioritize. Like, everything changes significantly when you're not well, or someone you care about is not well, and you need to pivot in that way. In a season of maybe financial lack, maybe you need to switch it up. Maybe you have things, but you feel things are, purposeless, or you don't really know where the meaning is in your life. So maybe that's when you start leaning a little bit more towards a spiritual focus, right? So really, values change, I think, based on where we're at and what we need in our life.
I think that's a great point. I think it's all about season. Like, maybe your season right now is season for money, season for fitness. It just depends, right? And the more you focus on it, the better you get, faster. And I think that the reason why we need to update this is, I see it more like, if you have an old software, then it's going to be slow compared to right now, right? So we have the internet. What do we have back then? It was the dial-up, right?
Oh, dial-up.
So, and then if you haven't updated your values and beliefs, then you're just gonna be behind and frustrated.
Potentially, yeah. And I think it just depends on where your aim and where your focus is. I would also say, like, I would say that anytime for me, whenever I'm making changes, is totally relevant to, like, who I want to be and how do I want to show up in life, and what are the things I want to see created in the world. So that usually steers my systems. I think there are a few that are pretty rock solid, like part of my foundation, and they are there because they have continued to serve me despite seasonal changes. So there might be some values or some beliefs that stay with you for the long haul, and then there's some you need to probably be willing to shed or let go.
Right. I think also, like, for example, when I was younger, I used to value comfort. And that's safety for me. However, as I keep growing up, if I want to have a better relationship, better friendship, career, then I'm gonna have to lean into that discomfort in order for me to grow.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. That
That's
is
why
the
we
way.
need to update our values and beliefs.
Yeah, absolutely. And then what does that look like, or what could that actually mean? I think for this one, this is kind of interesting because usually our people will align their identity with their values and beliefs. So in some cases, it could look like you might need to be willing to update your beliefs about yourself, aka your identity. You might need to change some of those things, and for some people, that's very difficult. I think as you, like with anything, with any skill, like as you practice it, you might get a little bit better at it over time and realize the difference between updating your identity versus like growing as a person. You'll start to realize how those are separate, how they aren't, they're the same, but they're not the same. If that's probably confusing, but yeah, how they
That's
differ.
a paradox.
How they differ really, because change your identity doesn't per se mean a loss of self if you are aware of yourself. But in the first time, it's like changing clothes. Like if you were somehow born with clothes, and the clothes were on you the whole time, and one day it was time to change clothes, and you're like, no, this is like my skin. I can't change clothes. And then you're offered some new clothes, and the first time might be a terrible experience for you. But once you put on the new clothes, you go, actually, I kind of like this new skin. I like these new clothes. This is really cool. And the second time might be a little bit less painful. And the third time might be a little bit less painful. And then you realize, oh, I can change clothes as much as necessary to do whatever it is I want or experience the life that I want.
Yeah, I think that's a good analogy on clothes. I think a better analogy that I can think of is your shoes. When you're young, you have tiny feet. And as you get older, that's
You can outgrow them.
Yeah,
You can't wear the same shoes all your life. Ooh, that's a gem.
Yeah.
Cool. So, and then some cases it could be small. Sometimes it could just be like the case of like, what does it look like? It could look like small practices. Like maybe you don't believe, but again, what's repeated over and over, right? So maybe you don't believe. I know a lot of people who maybe do 75 hard for their first time. They try something like that. Maybe their identity isn't that they are the type of person that works out, but I promise you by the end of that, their identity will shift and they'll be like, no, I definitely am the type of person, or I could be the type of person that does work out regularly, right? So sometimes it's small things repeated over a period of time that might create that shift. And that's another way that could look.
Yeah, I think what I can add to that is sometimes the reason why we want to change, sometimes it could start from a surface level, right? So for example, I want to lose weight. Yeah, that it's only the outside, the external. However, if you move on to the next tier, it's kind of like emotional for you. Why do you want to change? Something emotional that could, hit you. And then I think the third one is the identity. That is when you start to change, when you put it in your mind, I'm the type of person who works out instead of like, oh, I just need to lose weight.
I think that we have options between 2 and 3. I think that you could start working on the I want to feel before you get to the emotional aspect of it, before you even have that strong drive. Maybe the strong drive itself is just to feel differently than you feel on the day-to-day. And I think that might lead you to take the action to eventually pivot that view, your values and beliefs that are connected to your identity. So that's another way that could look as well.
Okay.
But let's get into some hot takes.
All right,
The fun part.
it.
The fun part.
What's the question?
Okay, so first question. It is, what is potentially a troublesome pairing of a value and a belief that doesn't lend itself well to personal growth or interacting with others? So what is a combo of a value and a belief that usually does not go well with personal growth or interacting with other people?
Wow. Okay. Let's see. I mean, I could go back to the same answer that I have in regards of comfort and discomfort.
Okay, go ahead. How does that relate to personal growth and interacting with others?
I think comfort when you were little could serve you from a chaotic home. So that's why you try to be invisible. So you stay comfortable on that. However, as you grow up, you start to realize being comfortable is not going to help you in terms of, having a deeper relationship with your partner, your friends, or family, because it's going to require some hard conversations. And same thing with your career. If you want to be successful, then it's going to require you to have courage and, you know, embrace the rejection, the embarrassment, the failure, and the mistakes that you're going to experience along the journey. And I think another hot take that I can say on this is having a radical responsibility, like having that idea of everything is my fault.
Not even fault, just yours to take care of.
Right, like it's because like I'm the type of person who's like, okay, even though it's not really my fault, there are certain situations that it's really not your fault, right? Maybe there's certain circumstance that just is not your fault. However, I like to take responsibility of that. No matter what happened, it's my fault because it allows me to have my agency and control in my life, and it allows me to heal and grow faster if I just take it in and yeah, everything happens for me.
Yeah, everything happens for us. That's solid. Okay. I think for this one, I think comfort, like seeking comfort, behaving in a way that is may come off as entitled or selfish. And I don't mean you're selfish for taking care of yourself. Some people are still sorting that out. If you fill your cup, you're more capable of doing more for others and showing up better. So I definitely believe in that. When I say selfish, I mean selfish to me equates to you want what you want at the expense of others with no consideration for how it may affect them. That to me is selfish. So I think that there's a pairing there where it's like, if I value comfort and I have a belief that no matter what happens or how it happens, I deserve to have it, that's a combination that will lead you to really bad consequences for your own growth and for your relationship with yourself. It definitely will obliterate your self-esteem slowly but surely, 100% later down the stream. And then your relationships, your connections with other people will definitely suffer, because how can you possibly connect, exchange with one another if you're only focused on, I want to be comfortable and I need to get what I need no matter what? Nobody really wants to be in a connection or relationship like that where there is the constant take and there's no real exchange.
Yeah, you need that reciprocation.
Yeah, an easy example of this is if you're having big feelings, the person shows up for you and you always want to have a discussion then, but you never let them talk about how they feel and what they want and what they need. You always go, well, this makes me uncomfortable, so I have to avoid it. And that just comes from that value and that belief being together. Yeah, sure, maybe you need to learn the tools and you don't have the skills to navigate that. But I think that this is where, again, the choice to be responsible or the desire to grow is a very important value or belief to have, or believing that you even can. Is like, even though this is uncomfortable and even if I fail, I'm willing to show up and try. I think that's an important one to have. The willingness to do that it says a lot. It will take you very far in life if you're willing to do that, because it means you'll have great opportunities to learn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that if it aligns to your value, even though it is uncomfortable, I think it's worth leaning into towards that, because it's what's going to help you level up.
Yeah, I think potentially if it's counter to your current beliefs and your current beliefs don't take you towards your value, you should be willing to do something about that. Which leads us to our second hot take, actually. This one's going to be fun. Right. This is the fun one. That one's the easy one. This is the fun one. What is a value and belief combo that has served you that others might disagree with? This is for you guys too. What is a value and belief combo that has served you that others might disagree with?
Oh, okay. Let's see. I would say, okay. All right, let's play around with this. I think that sometimes going to a therapy or someone that you trust or close to you, maybe your family, friends, whoever it is, or that care about you. However, sometimes I feel like you have the answer within you. And this is what I've noticed as well. It's like, I listen to all these podcasts, read a lot of books. Sometimes they don't have the context on what I have. So sometimes I have the best decision
The best answer for
The best answer
Yeah.
for, yeah.
Do you, all right, so if that's the belief, what is the value that goes with that?
Your own, making your own decision.
Valuing making your own decision?
Yeah, rather than just like listening to others. Sometimes you have a better answer because you have context on what's happening in a situation.
And where did that value come up for you?
For me, from growing up, people always tell me what to do and what to say. And I'm like, screw that. Let me trust myself. And actually, there are many times where like I made a decision is actually the best decision I've ever made.
So would you say that the value for that one is a value of maybe, is it partially like some mix of like valuing, building up your own trust with yourself, right?
Trust in myself.
Yeah, I think that's a good one. That's a good one.
And I think it's the same thing what I said earlier as well. Like not blaming anybody and just blaming yourself on whatever happens to your life.
Gotcha. Cool.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Let's see, for myself, value and belief combo. You know, when I wrote this question, I had a specific thing in mind. I'm gonna go with that. I think a value and belief combo that I have is that most people don't agree with is if you're valuing something that is damaging your life in a way that's obvious or harming others, I think you should reassess the value and be willing to throw it away. I think you should find a way to repurpose it or be willing to throw it away. And I think for beliefs too, and a lot of people don't get this either, is the same thing. If what you believe allows you to value things that are bad, you should throw that belief away too. Throw it in the trash. I think that a lot of people don't like that because they would be lost or aimless, like we mentioned earlier, where it's like without beliefs, without values, you wouldn't know what to shoot for. And I think there's this fear that you cannot find a new aim. But I have pivoted so much in life where it's like, true, myself, the idea of being aimless or wandering is a terrible thing. It's not somewhere I would ever want to be. I would never want to be living long periods of my life aimless. However, I do not believe that I would be aimless forever because, again, humans are meaning-making machines. And I really believe and trust in our ability to do that because in my own experience in life, I have done that. I have pivoted, I've made adjustments, and I believe that that has served me because there are things that had I have held on to them any longer than I already did, because holding on too long already added lots of negative consequences in my experience. And not being willing to adjust or adapt sooner. I think, change can be scary, you know. Anything that throws off our understanding of the world can be absolutely terrifying. However, that value and belief, that combo that I have is, one, the belief is that if it's not working, throw it away or update it or find a way to repurpose it. Like if you can't, just be willing to go through the hardship, be willing to fight for it, whatever it is that it's going to require, be willing to do that. And the value that drives that for me is the pursuit of growth. I value the ability to grow, to change, to adapt, to keep trying to explore and live the best life that I possibly can. That's a high order value for me. It steers a lot of my beliefs and it steers a lot of my choices. And usually things that are not congruent with that, I'm generally willing to let them go and throw them away, just like I said.
All right.
So
Throw in the trash.
Yeah, throw in the trash. So I think that's a hot take where it's like, sometimes we fight for the things that we value and believe, and we should, but we also need to know when it's not worth the fight. Like some people are like, yeah, I need to fight and do this because my ego says I have to defend myself and da-da-da-da-da-da. And that's the same thing with like, well, I don't know. If you don't train, do you really want to fight with this person who does mixed martial arts and trains 6 hours a day every day for the last 8, 9, 10 years of their life? Do you really want to fight with them? Probably not a good idea.
You get smoked.
It's probably not a good idea. It's probably not worth it. And I think sometimes when we are, let's say dysregulated or emotionally overly stimulated or whatever it is, we we might not be able to actually evaluate, which is why it's important for us to pause sometimes and reflect, and or maybe get some. Yeah, imagine if you're about to get into a fight, and sometimes you have friends that are like, yeah, let's do it. Those those friends are dangerous friends, no cap. And then or you have friends like, hey man, I don't know if we should do this, like let's think about this for a second, or let's talk it out. Those are the friends you want,
Right.
Those are the ones you need, that with you at all times.
100%. And I think the friends that are willing to be honest with you, despite of the whatever silly things that you're going through, I think that's very important, because some friends would co-host.
Yeah, they're co-signing your stuff. They're down. They're down to go down the river with you. You need some riders. You need a couple riders, but when it comes time for decision making, you might need a friend that is able to say, "Hey, I think maybe we should pause, come back to this a little bit later," type deal. So, cool. Is there anything else you want to talk about for values and beliefs?
Let's see. I mean, the one that's in my head in regards of happiness, I don't know why. Most people, they always say that the meaning of life is to be happy. I feel like happiness is so overrated, and
It's fleeting.
the way I see happiness is more like external things, like for example your status, money, accolades, trophies that you get, right? It's something that's temporary, and it's very short term. However, I think what most people need to focus on is joy. I think joy is more internal. It is your purpose, on your hard work, and you showing up, being courageous. I think that is much more fulfilling in your life.
Yeah. I think also when you said that, it made me think about just in general about gratitude and appreciation, right? Like if you can wake up and be grateful for your life, and yeah, you're going to have ups and downs, and that's all good. But if your baseline is like, I appreciate my life, and I'm grateful for the opportunities and the ups and downs, I would say you're in a pretty good place. The pursuit of happiness, I think I stopped thinking about things that way a long time ago. Shout out to Pastor Jomo. I think he made it very clear to me, many years ago, it's like happiness is predicated upon what happens to you or happens for you, right? And that's a temporary event. Life is a long game, just like a plant, flower. It's growing, it's going to do what it does, and the petals, wow, that's our happiness, right? They will wilt, it will die, it will go away. The plant will have a chance to experience that again if the plant is taken care of. I think sometimes when we neglect the care of the plant because we're so worried about seeing the petals all the time, then we miss out on the point, and then we get no petals whatsoever. You're going to miss the happiness completely because you aren't really in the process,
Yeah. I mean, sometimes when I hear this statement from other people, I just want to be happy, and I'm like, wow, good luck.
Well, yeah, maybe they need to experience that to find some bit of solace from maybe what they're dealing with, they're going through at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe that's the case. But I think values and beliefs, again, values, let's say that's what we want. And let's say beliefs.
What's important for us and beliefs is the story that's true in here.
Yeah, about how we do that, or how we get it. And it's important to be able to update those things. And like you said earlier, I think a good example of this is when you are having conversations with people, when you're connecting with people, they might have different values and different beliefs, and you might need to understand how to interact with them, how to navigate that. It might be uncomfortable, but you can still make it to a positive outcome, more cases than not. And I think that's important for you to even understand that. I think without even understanding that reference, you can't table what's important to you for the duration of a conversation, I think that's important. Sometimes you might have to table some of that stuff, set it aside so you could be fully present with the person and hear what they have to say. I think that's an important one too. I think that's probably growing in value. I think people are starting to appreciate some of that a little bit more, but it's still not mainstream yet, which is part of our goal, which is part of why we're here.
Make it mainstream.
Cool. So is there anything else you want to touch base on?
That's it. I think we cover everything.
All right, fantastical. Cool. So if you found this podcast interesting, entertaining, want to share it with somebody, we'd greatly appreciate that. Your support helps us to continue to do this. Additionally, if you're looking for any one-on-one coaching or any event hosting, we do that as well. Again, focused on how can we optimize human interaction? How can we improve that? How can we see more of that in the world? Physical fitness coaching with Coach Vaughn as well. And if you're looking for some of the best supplements on earth, the link will be in the bio via First Forum. And I think that's it. All right, everyone. We'll see you in the next episode. Have a beautiful day.